Hello there, calling up community. I'm Claudia Alec, and happy Flag Day! I thought that today I would share a few reflections that might help you to think about political performance. So I was trained into performing patriotism in many different ways. One of the ways was very young, grade school, young middle school. We would have to fold the flag into sacred triangles. And I don't know if you had to do this. This might have been something that was unique to, like maybe this was regional. I grew up in Montana where you would take the flag and it could never touch the ground, and it was a very sacred and solemn ceremony. It would often require getting to school perhaps even early, or going to the place where the club was meeting early, where the flag would have to be taken down or put back up and kept clean. And it was an almost religious, solemn thing. And I recall, as a little kid, coding it as weird white people performance. I often did this as a kid because my family was the black family in Missoula, Montana. So oftentimes the white families would have strange behaviors. And my mother would explain to me that that was weird white people performance. And what we did was regular good performance inside our house. She did not define it as this is black performance. She just defined it as, well, this is what makes sense. This is the common sense stuff that makes sense. I now recognize that what she was doing was anti-racist performance to a certain extent. Okay, so as I grew older, like as a young adult, I coded those things like being asked to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I now recognize that those were me being trained into the performances of patriotism. It wasn't just weird white people performance. Although now, as I'm later in my adulthood, I am coding it as weird white male nationalist modes of performing patriotism. Because that type of patriotism was incredibly passive. It was about optics. You had to make sure that you had like the imagery that said patriotism. You had to have a flag, a bumper sticker. You had to have the things. You had to have maybe an American eagle or something somewhere. You had to have the optics that said, I am patriotic. But patriotism in that context meant blind allegiance, supporting those who were in power. Unquestioningly. That's what patriotism was. My mother was into participatory patriotism. She grew up in the civil rights movement in Memphis, Tennessee. So she raised me to be the kind of adult who participates in government, because that's what you do. That's how communities run well. That's how that works. Like when the school asks you to join the committee to help the school run, you join the committee, even if you don't have children. That's what I did in my community, because I wanted to have a community that had healthy children, because healthy children made good outcomes for me and my programming in my life, right? Everywhere I volunteer, it's because I'm invested in those community outcomes too. When the city asked me to volunteer on the ad hoc committee for the commission that was helping to create the climate change plan for the city of Ashland, I was on that committee for 2 years, volunteering for 2 years to create that climate plan for the city of Ashland, Oregon, and it was necessary. That's actually what government is. That's what that is. It is a bunch of people who are part of the community volunteering to help the community run well. And that's what it's supposed to be. It's participatory and it's representative. So when there were moments, when there were large like national rules or policies being made, and I needed to make sure that my representative actually was doing what all of the people wanted, I would get on the phone and call him up, be like, hey, so all of me and my people were all saying this, and we want to make sure you do your best job of representing what everybody wants. We want to make sure you know what we want. And that was part of my job that's me being patriotic. Calling my congressman is an act of patriotism. And when the actual normal modes of communication failed to work, And the larger places of government and policy that were supposed to be reflecting the will of the people were not. And were doing things that were hurting and harming us. I protested on the streets. Why? Because that seemed to be the only way to communicate to the larger community and larger government that the people were not being served or heard. That's patriotic. That was me performing participatory patriotism. And then the third part of patriotism I was taught about was more, well, my father's an immigrant from the island of Grenada, yeah? And in an immigrant family, you choose to come to the United States. You're for this place. You like this place. It was a choice. It's active. It's an active patriotism. But also, there's another layer where you are forced to perform the optics of passive patriotism. Because you just got here. What are you doing critiquing anything? Also, even if legally you're completely allowed to be here, just know that socially you will be treated as if you are provisional. So you better act like this is the best place ever and everybody here are the best people ever, and you better make sure that you have all of the optics of patriotism so that people will find it harder to attack you from being from some other place. So that type of patriotic performance, that was a thing too. Active, full of the optics of patriotism. Huh? All I know is that my mother, she raised me to know my history, to know the names of the slaves, and know what they built that helped to make this place, and feel like this place is mine. So there's a little bit of an ownership to my patriotism. Me and my people made this place. This is mine. This is my country. And so this flag, this beautiful flag, I love this. I just got this out of storage. It was in the art storage bag because it is a large art object. It has been displayed. It's been part of projects and art performances all over the country. But right now it was in a place of storage. And I think I'm now going to find a place of honor for it in my home. This art object manifests because I grew up in Montana, and I had a friend, when he was a senior, he stole a flag. It was not a performance of, I'm critiquing the United States. It was a performance of, it was a performance of, he was a young white male, and at that time period, in the context of that community, young white men of a certain class privilege were actually encouraged to break the law in mild ways that didn't really mean anything, and then the community could not police them, and then that was like, letting boys be boys, and then those boys would then grow up to maintain and make sure everyone else followed all the rules. This was the country that I grew up in, right? So his stealing of the flag was a letting off steam, that kind of performance. I wanted a flag for myself so I could use it to make art. I just felt like it was a potent object, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it. But I also knew that I would be unable to steal one. Because if me and my brown body stole an American flag, I would be arrested and bad things would happen to me. If he got caught doing that, chances are there would be chuckles and be like, you kids, stop doing that. But if I had done that, I would have received harm, and possibly my family would have received harm. So I asked my friend to steal it, and he was like, oh, yeah, totally. And then I forgot that I'd done that, and I went to college, and then I came home on Christmas break, and boop, he got me this beautiful present. So I brought it back to Washington, D.C., to my dorm. I lived in an arts dorm, and I took this flag, and I put it in the hallway so I could paint it. This was pretty normal. Many of us would put things in the hallway so we could work on our big art projects. But for some reason, I received a lot of attention when I was doing this project. And not because it was a flag, actually. I think it was because it was a flag and it was this body. So it was white men who came to me to let me know that what I was doing was desecrating this sacred object. That what I was doing was a violation of something that was integral to being an American. They were concerned that I was not only breaking a law, an actual law. They were concerned that I was hurting and harming their ability to be. They stopped me. They did not want me to be doing this. They felt like me painting the word peace on here, painting the word love on here, was somehow desecrating this. But I said to them, well, this is art. That's what I'm doing here. I'm making, this is a piece of cloth, and I'm painting on it, and it's art. It was already art, though. That's what a flag is. It's an artistic cloth object that was created to represent something. But what does this represent? At the time, to me, it didn't represent the things I needed it to fully represent. So I laid down on it with my paint, and I imbued it with love. I carved with my paint peace into my America. My America needed to have peace and love. And it felt like that object didn't communicate that neutrally all by itself. When I was in Montana, watching people drive by in pickup trucks with an American flag festooned everywhere, they were not making a statement of patriotism for my country, for the place that I built, that my people built, that I've been investing and volunteering all of my time and work and labor in all of my life. I love this country. I'm aspirationally patriotic. I believe in the grand experiment of all of us human beings being here and making this place that we are now calling the United States a place where we can all live healthy, where we can all live good. Seems like there's a lot of folks out there that are not invested in that particular outcome. Seems to me they ain't patriotic. I think I'm patriotic. I recognize that for a lot of us right now, we feel like saying yes to the United States is saying yes to white nationalism. That saying yes to the United States is saying yes to police and state violence. To saying yes to the United States is saying yes to rich people stealing our money. That saying yes to the United States is saying yes to being lied to on a continual basis. I would like to say that that's not my America. And that's why I'm doing all of the beautiful, participatory, patriotic things I can do. And I encourage you to do that as well. Perform your patriotism. Let's make this country actually great. Happy Flag Day!